Assalamu alaikum, Maryam.
Walaikum salam. I just hear you that you said in the slide that you have to know who are you in terms of what Allah wants from you. I didn't get what that exactly mean and how that will affect what I have to do.
Yes, so I don't mean from the context of your obligations. Of course, we have to pray 5 times a day. We have to fast in the month of Ramadan if we can. If we don't have a valid excuse, obviously, we should still fast and so on and so forth. What I mean here is about your particular purpose in your life. So your purpose in life is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to know Allah, to love Allah, to obey Him, to submit to Him, to be humble before Him, to direct your internal and external acts of worship to Allah alone. So we know that's the case. But what is your particular purpose? What is your role in all of this? Are you going to get involved in dawah? Are you going to manage an organization? Are you going to focus on your profession? What things are you going to do that is going to link to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So when I said, what does Allah want from me in my particular context? And that requires you to know who you are, because what's very important here is you have certain skills, you have certain abilities, you have certain traits, you have a certain disposition that Allah has given you, and He could have given you that for a particular purpose. For example, if Allah has given you the skills of very intelligent, eloquent, able to express yourself, and that is your main skill, and that is what comes naturally to you, then you should understand that about yourself without having ujub, without having self-amazement, because this is just from Allah. It's got nothing to do with you. It's a gift from Allah. And using those gifts for His pleasure in your context. I don't know what your context is, for example, but you should use it for His pleasure. So it could be for giving dawah, for example. But that also, for that to happen, you have to understand what your context is. So when I said, because the whole question about knowing yourself was in light of my question I wanted everyone to ask themselves was, what does Allah want from me in this context? Meaning, what is closer to the pleasure of Allah? And for that to happen, you have to know what your context is. You have to know what the pleasure of Allah is in that context. What is the most pleasing thing to Allah? And at the same time, you may have to know about yourself too, because in order for you to do those actions in that context, you have to know your weaknesses, your strengths, work on yourself, and so on and so forth. So for example, if I say, I believe Allah wants me to give dawah, and I've understood my context, Allah wants me to give dawah that's more pleasing to Him, but I have to know who I am, because if I don't know who I am to a certain degree, then all of it could be a destruction. Because if I have an ego problem, then I need to now know, in order for me to give effective dawah, I need to work on some of the spiritual diseases of my heart. I need to work on kibr. I need to work on hasad. I need to work on ujub, self-amazement. So that's why it's very important to be self-aware. Self-awareness is extremely important in anything that you do in your life, especially when you're doing things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why I want to link with your self-awareness with what you think you should do in your context to please Allah. Yes, you may find out that Allah wants me to be a doctor and save lives for His sake. And my context is that because I have great skills in becoming a heart surgeon, for example. I have all the skills necessary. I have the background. My father was a doctor. I'm intelligent. I'm passing my medical exams and all of these things. And I know, the pleasing thing to Allah is that I should be a doctor, because there are not many doctors out there. There are very few female doctors, for example. So I'm going to get more reward, inshallah. That's not enough. You have to find out who you are as well, because in order for that to have barakah and for that to be pleasing to Allah, we have to, for example, do it for His sake, for His pleasure, to gain His divine reward, to prevent ourselves from His punishment. You have to do it for that. You have to have ikhlas. And self-awareness means I need to develop that if that's one of the shortcomings. It could be something else, right? It could be your own role and responsibility as a Muslim. Maybe Allah has given you certain roles and responsibilities, and you doing this action is going to inflict the rights of others. Sometimes we become very, we zoom in on a particular thing and we're not really focused on the wider implication. Yeah. And so on and so forth. So I don't know if I've answered the question properly.
Yeah.
It is getting a bit late. It's like nearly 1:30 in the morning.
Yes,
But is that slightly clear, sister?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Jazakumullah
well, I
khair.
guess. Well, yeah.
Jazakallah khair.